Welcome to Backyards and Bevvies. Grab your favorite bevy, pull up a chair, and enjoy the ride. Hey, B&B fam. This podcast is sponsored to you by BetterHelp, H-E-L-P. Is there something getting in the way of your happiness? I know when I traveled the world, I had many days where BetterHelp's worldwide service of licensed professional therapists could have helped me speak to someone no matter where I was in the world about whatever was happening with my life, and with zero judgment. With their ability to match me with a therapist that best fits me, I know my mental health would have been way better back then. Believe me, I needed it. But I'm here to share a way for you to take back control of your mental health by telling you about BetterHelp's awesome services they have for you to talk with a pro about your life through their app or just online. Whether it is a video session or some simple messaging, their team is here to help. I went to check out the app for myself just to see how easy it was to use, and after a series of questions, I was told I would be able to start matching with a therapist in under 48 hours. And what is super rad is that it's affordable and they even offer financial aid too. So come join the 2 million users that have already been helped and gain back control of your mental health by visiting betterhelp.com/backyards for 10% off your first month. Remember, BetterHelp is therapy done securely online. Don't forget to use the special code BACKYARDS and let BetterHelp, H-E-L-P, help you to start living a happier life today.
About what anybody else is doing.
I know.
I know it's easier said than done.
Oh, that's what I told her. I said, but that's why I'm happy is because I know I know I'm winning.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just it doesn't mean I don't get to go through it.
Yeah, sometimes it's a struggle. I understand.
Like
that.
I'm not doing what I have to do, right? Like yesterday I was online doing my MailChimp and doing all that stuff. And of course, lo and behold, I click on it and the template that I had forever is gone.
Of course.
So now I'm like, well, fuck.
So were you able to find it or you had to recreate it?
Recreate the whole thing. I think it came out better this time, but still it's just like my point is like I'm still doing the work. It's just I'm feeling all of it right now.
Yeah.
It's not just like one thing, it's all the things. So anyways, we can talk about it.
I mean, you just did. I feel like now all you have to say is welcome to Backyards and Bevvies. That was the intro.
No.
Why not?
'Cause that was just you and me talking right now. I don't know. All right, you ready? 1, 2, 3. Welcome to Backyards and Bevvies.
Welcome. Thanks for joining us once again.
It's hot.
It is hot.
It's real hot.
Maybe next time we'll record inside.
Probably not. I mean, it's hot, but it's nice. Like today, I did my last. I call it therapy because it really is therapy in a way. It's called Better Living. Is like the program's name. But I did it outside today, and it was so funny because the lady that's my mentor or therapist, whatever you want to call her, she's amazing. She reminds me of my grandma. I cried today and told her she reminded me of my grandma.
No.
I opened the Zoom up and there she is in her backyard.
Oh, no way.
And I was like, oh, I see that you needed to be outside too. I said there was no way that I could keep this energy inside. I've had a week and we went right in and it was good though. It was our last session. And it was interesting. It was 10 weeks. But
not 10 straight weeks because you were gone
and she had to do a couple things as well, which was really cool because it allowed, I think, a little extra time for things to like, sit and stew and brew and work themselves out and learn and grow. And so it was interesting though. I pulled up one of the first things that we ever talked about because that was one of the big things we talked about today. It was emotions. And it was wild because I was like, man, I am going through it this week.
Yeah.
I am feeling everything that could possibly be happening to me. I am in it. I'm super jealous of everything. Every person that is creating something, I'm just like jealous.
Yeah.
I'm stressed out of my mind as a father. I'm stressed as a husband. I'm way too hard on myself about my looks right now. Like
Way
just
too hard. You look great.
everything.
Look at you.
I feel like a whale right
You're
now.
not. You're crazy.
That video I sent you last night of them reeling in that whale,
Stop.
I could have put my face on that video and would have felt fine.
Nowhere close. You are crazy.
But that's what we were talking about. And we started, and the program's really crazy too, because it's all about it's not like you did this to me, right? And so it was
About
really
how you handle the situations.
well, I've put a lot of blame throughout my life on a lot of what I was dealt, right? I think that a lot of people want to always create like a story too, right? Like, oh, well,
That's not my fault.
well, I don't even know if it's like that, but a lot of people want to say like, well, my childhood and, I was beat or I was this or that. And they put a lot of blame on like why they haven't moved forward in life, right? And today I was telling her, what's crazy is I know I'm forward, right? And we established all these terms and definitions throughout this course. And one of the things that me and her talked about, and I think I've even talked about it here, it's like, if you were to take like start at the bottom of, with your finger and then draw a circle, but as you come back around, you don't go all the way back to the bottom. If you're doing everything every day, if you're like trying to get 1% better, right? And you like go draw your little line, you draw your circle, and your circle goes, let's just say an inch higher than that bottom line. You're better, right? But the hard part with a lot of people is that down slope, though, to complete
And then
into
to get
the
it back
next up. That bottom is, in so many terms, the force of average, which we've used on the show before. So like Ryan Stewman has this thing called the force of average, and it's everything that's going to take you back to you being the average human that you are, right? Because it takes so much to be an extraordinary human.
Right.
Like it does. It really does. Like waking up and working out every day, eating healthy, not being a fall down drunk. I mean, like you name it, it's easy to be all of those things. And so I was telling her, I was like, today is this week has been my
You're just like
force
sitting
of
in the bottom of that spiral.
Yeah, because she uses a pendulum.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Same idea, right? You go up one side and
come back
it's all
down.
beautiful and happy over here. Then you go back over here. And that bottom is hard for people because the momentum, and as your pendulum swings, right? If you're not like a swing set, right? Think about yourself on a swing. If you're not kicking your legs, you eventually just
You got to keep the
your momentum
going.
dies, and you end up just sitting at the bottom. And so that is the hard part with self, right? Like, because it's me. It's not on you. Like,
Right.
you can tell me nice things to lift me up for that day or that hour.
But I can't change you or your attitude.
But it has to be me, and so I wouldn't call this a 12-step program, but there's 12 principles we read at the beginning of every session, right? And I think some of them are cool. I'm not going to read them all because I'm not going to give away all her material, but I think one of the coolest ones is one of the first ones is I will be 100% responsible for myself and to others 100% of the time. It's a fairly simple statement, just saying that if I did something, like for instance, last night, our little boy was like, me and him were just not meshing. We just did not see eye to eye on every little detail about how the night was going. But I personally took it to a personal attack, and I started to make it more about me. And what I started to do is started to get frustrated with him, which then only made him more frustrated, right? And so it turned
because he
into
can totally read your emotions.
Right, and it totally turned into this giant feedback loop, and I became emotional, he became emotional, we both, it was like a boxing match.
Yeah.
And a 2-year-old was winning.
Yeah, well.
And I
don't think either of you were winning.
Well, I mean, I say just winning just because someone had to separate us and put us into our corners to get some water and some Vaseline rubbed on our faces, and it's hard though. I think that, but I told her, I said, what's crazy is eventually I had to start looking at my my personalities.
Mm-hmm.
Like, who's my child in me? Who's my adolescent in me? Who's my critical adult in me? And who's my responsible, or my, geez, now I'm spacing on the term. My responsible adult, basically. And I finally had to snap out of it. And you had even made a comment about my adolescent. And she goes, "Did that make you mad?" And I said, "Actually, it didn't, because I knew what I was doing." And that's interesting, because for the first time in my life, I'm aware. I'm not just living in this like realm of me. I personally am taking responsible for my actions, and I snapped out of it. I even told her, I said, I might not have been the most chatty person afterwards, but I did snap out of it, and I came around for the night, and it was done. We finished it. We talked. It was good. But that doesn't mean it's over. It doesn't mean like magically I fixed the situation, right? We still have a long way to go. And I think that's the coolest part about this 10-week program, is that you're not like, I don't feel done. I feel a little more educated about who I am, which is cool though.
Yeah. Well, you have some additional tools that you can utilize to help yourself navigate through life, which is amazing. But I mean, I don't think anybody's ever done with improving themselves or learning about themselves and how they react to things and interact with others. And
well, I think some people think they are.
True.
I mean, wholeheartedly, I feel like I know a handful of people that if I was to say, like, could you get any better? They'd be like, no, I'm good. But that's the sad reality about it. And I think I was one of those people for a long time. I did put a lot of pressure on myself as an adult, like trying to get away from my childhood, trying not to be my mother, trying not to be my father. I've come to the conclusion I'm both of them.
Well,
one of them I enjoy being, the other one I don't. And I never knew how to knew how to really take it though. I never knew how to actually like work around the personalities, which was interesting. But now that I've gone through this, for the first time in my life, I felt like yesterday was something that, though I did want to continue arguing about it, it was the first time I actually didn't continue arguing about it. I think you and me have gone for some, not vicious battles, but we've gotten into some pretty heated battles. And I always feel like I end up winning only because I just continue to push and push and push, and finally you're like, all right, I just can't hear it anymore.
Sometimes.
I would say that most of our old fights ended that way, and I think yesterday was the first time that it didn't end that way.
Yeah.
We didn't end in a note where it was, I won strictly on the fact that I just said more words.
Yeah. And I was just done.
And you were just done and toast listening to me. And I was telling her about that today, and it is helpful, I think, in life when you start to look at your different like stages in life, which I never thought about. Like I came to the realization that the reason I'm creative is because I never really lived my childhood. I was never really like, I was never in a spot where all I could do was just be a child.
Be a child, yeah.
I had to be.
You had to grow up pretty quick.
Well, it wasn't necessarily that I grew up pretty quick. It was just the environment I was in. There was always chaos. There was no quiet time to just truly sit and just be a kid for longer than a day, right? If it wasn't something at home, then it was something else in the family somewhere else, or I gotta go here now, or it was never quiet. And then so then when I became an adolescent, I took that and I pushed the little kid way far away.
Right.
And it was cool because I ended up having this conversation with a guy who's gone through this program, and I really, really, really respect him. And he was the one that actually was like, doesn't sound like you're not, how do you put it? not mad. I'm sad that my little child never got to live. And I think that's why this fiction world that I can live in is so detailed and fun for me as an adult. Even though I'm not writing like child fiction or young adult fiction, I'm writing.
It's just you're using your imagination.
I'm using my imagination finally. And I think it was always that way. Like all the wild little things that I would tell you I want to do, and you'd be like, okay.
Well, that sounds fun.
It sounds fun, but that's what a kid would say, right?
Right.
And so it all makes kind of sense that why I lived in this little kid-ish world, you could say, for so long. Because all I wanted to do was go there, but all I knew how to do when I was there was be an adolescent. And so all my adolescent stuff would come through. Hence why I probably treated people like shit for a long time.
Right. Probably.
Because I was always pushing the limits of to where I could get and what I could get and all that stuff. And I never listened to my critical parent because that was my mom.
Right.
And the last thing I wanted to do was listen to her.
Right.
And so, lo and behold, here I am, 40, starting to figure it out.
Well, I mean, at least you're starting to figure it out.
I think it's very important I'm starting to figure it out.
I mean, it's never too late.
No, I don't
think it is. And you're still 40, to me, is still very young.
It's like the new 20.
I agree. I totally agree, especially because I'll be turning 40 next year.
Yeah, I actually have some ideas.
For my 40th birthday?
Yeah.
Hopefully it's the F1 race in Miami.
No, nothing fun like that. I mean, I'm going to go to that, but you can stay here and watch the kids.
Very rude.
But, yeah, it was funny because she did say, like, at the beginning, she goes, man, your tension, I can see it. And it was true.
You have had a long, tough week.
Yeah, but I did it to myself,
I agree.
And I expressed that to her multiple times. I said, well, for one, we've had a lot of family in town, and for two, there's been way more alcohol in my life than there has
in a long while.
In the last month than there has in probably 6 months.
Yeah.
And I was telling her, though that is an issue, the bigger issue is that I wasn't putting my health first.
Right.
So there would be times where it's fine, cool, let's go have a drink, let's rage one night. But then a couple nights, like I expressed to her, well, I couldn't work out because there was someone in the living room, or we had people coming over early, or we had to go somewhere early, or, but it was still me, though.
Right.
I was not doing my due diligence of keeping myself in that consistent, healthy living space, right? Which throws me for a loop every single time, and I know that.
Well, and I think in situations like that, for example, when like if somebody's staying at the house and you feel like you can't go out there and work out because you work out at 4 a.m. and they're going to be asleep on the couch. Well, it's not that you can't work out. You're just going to have to go do something different to work out. Work out in our bedroom or come work out outside on the deck or whatever the case may be, instead of, like you said earlier, pushing the blame, basically. It's like, I can't do this because it's not my normal routine. Yeah. Well, you can. You just have to adjust the routine, but at least you're still sticking to the main points of the routine.
Yeah. So, it was...
But it's good to learn because we have more people coming to stay with us. So.
Well, and I also, I think mentally I've just said, all right, I have one more week to get through with just, like, little things that we wanted to do this summer that were like in open space where we didn't have to deal with the book or the podcast or all the little things, and we could just do it real quick, have our fun and be done. But I have to go into that space and say that before it happens.
Right.
Or I end up turning into a big grump.
Well, how do you feel today after your last session?
Well, I feel way better, and that was part of what we were discussing was, I finally got into my emotions with her and was explaining to her some of my things. And, one of the things on here, it says, I will stay current with my feelings. And I don't think that I was staying current with my feelings.
Like analyzing them
Mad,
yourself?
Sad,
or
glad, and afraid. And those are 4 giant feelings or emotions that we all go through. But what's funny about them is sure, we can, like, I'm mad at this. But what's really happening? Well, I'm actually more afraid about this. And this is driving me.
Coming out as being mad.
This is driving me to here because I'm sad about this. But when I think about everything, I'm happy about this. You know, like, and that's what we started to go through. She was like, well, what's the problem? And I was like, well, I'm afraid about my relationship with my son right now. And that is driving me to feel this way. And we just started to go through them. Like, but deep down, I know better to be truly afraid or fearful of something, because I have nothing to be afraid of.
Right.
He's 2. I can't be afraid of my relationship with him at 40, or my relationship with him at 30 or 20 or 15 or any of those. I just need to work on today.
Right.
And we started going through that, and we were like boiling it down. Well, why though? What is it? You know, and not why, but like, why is it that I feel that I need to do this today when it doesn't matter until 40 years from now?
Right.
And so, but that's what I wasn't also doing all week long when I was feeling emotions. I really wasn't thinking about them. I was just reacting.
Right.
As opposed to
stopping and taking a deep breath and thinking.
Analyzing. Okay. And then part of all of this revolves in circles, right? We put ourselves into these circles, and then there goes that circle that I was talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm
at the bottom again.
Yeah.
But am I truly at the bottom? And that's what I was telling her. So I'm happy that I'm not at the bottom.
Right.
Right? So there's the happy.
Right.
Which is crazy, because you're like, well, how can you feel mad, sad, afraid, and happy? Well, I can be happy that I don't feel the way I did 10 weeks ago, which wasn't horrible.
But you're better now.
But I was still going through a lot.
Right.
So it's been eye-opening. So by the end of it, I was smiling. I cried a little because we were saying our goodbyes in a way. I'm actually going to continue the class, I'm more than likely, just in a different light with her.
Yeah. Which I think is a great idea.
There's a support group here, too, that I'm going to hop in with my one friend that I really... And he's not like a friend like, oh, he's 20 and going through a hard time.
No, he's one of your mentors.
He's like 65 and still going through a lot of stuff. But he's gone through so much that when I first asked him for help, he was so like, oh, yeah, let's do it. Let's talk. And he instantly goes, I think you might enjoy this. And she goes, how'd she say? She goes, you've been one of my, I wouldn't say favorites, but you've been one of the more enjoyable ones because you instantly took to it. You were instantly open.
Right.
I didn't have to like pry anything or be like
pull stuff out of you.
It was like if I told you to go be hokey and draw a mask of yourself, I did it. But I did it in my way, and she enjoyed all of that stuff. And so it was a very good experience. And so she gave me some other things to look at to help my life going forth, because I told her, like, well, let's take a little break. Let me get back to normal. Let me see where I am in 2, 3, 4 weeks, and then let's reevaluate getting back into a class.
Yeah.
So it was interesting.
And we'll see what happens.
I mean, I was explaining to her. She goes, well, what's your podcast? Because she saw the microphone in the background.
Oh, okay.
And I said, well, what's kind of funny is I think it started as like me trying to figure out how to have a career again by interviewing people, very Joe Rogan-ish or whatever. I said, what I think it's evolved into is something even deeper. It's almost like a how to have a conversation with your wife. But I don't have to say how to do it. I'm just showing people like this is how we talk, and this is how we work through problems. And I said, it's kind of funny. Like some days we talk about like silly shit like soccer. But I was what's the craziest point about it though is that there is no one thing, right? And so that's probably why we've never taken off, is because we're not like super focused into just finance or this or that. So I've told her, I was like, well, it's kind of like I try to name the shows very appropriately. So if you're like not interested in soccer or Kiss or something that's like that,
then listen to something else.
Then you can choose one of our other episodes that says maybe responsible living.
Right.
And that's actually what it's called. It's responsible living. It's not better living.
Yeah, it's close enough.
My brain's all over the place today.
Okay.
But one of the other principles that I really, really enjoy is I will choose win-win mentality. I will not support or play the victim game, win-lose mentality. And I think my whole life I've lived in the win-lose mentality, the victim. And I think a lot of people live there. Now that we went through this and we really dove into what that looks like, it's really hard to look at something bad or take something that you think is bad and spin it into a positive.
True.
And I'm not just talking about like, oh, I'm happy today.
Right.
It's really diving in and saying, this is a really shitty situation, but I'm going to figure out how to win out of it.
Yeah.
And that's what, right before you actually told me the intro was the best part to this. I should have just kept that.
You still can.
But I think that's that exact thing is when your pendulum starts to slow or that force of average starts to grab a hold of you or your circle momentum is coming down the backside. Well, how do I personally take responsibility for myself and dig my way back out? How do I start to kick my legs again?
Right.
And one of the things I said to her today is, the happy that's always apparent is the fact that, well, I have a house. I have a wife that loves me. I have children that I assume love me, right?
They love
I know
you.
I say that of course they don't know what love is. Like they know that I'm there, right? So that's their love, right? It's not like I love you.
Right.
I have food on the table. I have shelter. I have all these things that God's given me. So of course I'm happy.
Right.
I'd be crazy not to be happy. So if that's my one drive that kicks my feet again to get my swing going, then cool. Then I have to do that. But that's the way you dig yourself out. And that's what I think makes situations so hard for people to get out of is because they look at this happened to me. And why is it unfair that this is happening to me? And so by the end of our conversation, looking at my week, well, yeah, duh. Like, of course I'm mad at myself. Of course I'm mad at the situation that I put myself in. Of course I'm sad at the situation that I put myself in because of my actions. Of course I'm sad that I'm mad at something that's so hokey and silly that I shouldn't, that has zero reference to my life. Like, why am I jealous and worried about 10 years from now?
Right.
It makes no sense.
Right.
Let people, there's so much
Nothing you can do about
there's so much to go around. So why am I jealous about what other people are winning?
Right.
I mean, I want to see them win, but like I felt jealousy I even felt jealousy inside of seeing them win.
Right.
Right. Like I'm happy for them because I'm forcing myself to be happy.
Right.
And then of course I'm afraid of my actions because there I am once again getting mad and sad. But at the end,
there's happiness.
There's the happy.
Overall.
Yeah. So it's crazy that you can look at those emotions and you can dive into yourself at any point in your day and really say, well, okay, well, what am I feeling? But what is the ultimate kick to my legs getting out of this situation? Or what do I really have to do to get out of this? Because this isn't healthy.
Right.
But
well, I think more than anything, the key is recognizing when something is not healthy and then talking about those 4 emotions and figuring out how do I get out of feeling whatever the originating feeling is that's then making you be reactive with the other feelings.
Oh, for sure. Reactive is easy. I can go 0 to 100 real quick.
And that's true. But, I mean, the fact that you're willing to step back and look at yourself and really deeply look at who you are, how you're acting, how you're reacting, what is causing those things, nobody can be perfect, first of all. And nobody can be the best version of their self every day, all the time.
Right.
Then you wouldn't learn.
Yeah.
So it's okay to make mistakes, and it's okay to get frustrated.
Absolutely.
And to be mad, and to be sad, and to be afraid.
Yeah.
And yes, it is amazing for you to stay grounded in your happiness, in knowing the blessings that God has given you.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean it's not okay to feel those other things. You just have to figure out how to feel those things, but by feeling them, make yourself a better person every time you go through something like that.
I think it is.
And not revert to the actions that you took and the reactions that you had the last time you felt those ways, So it's like yesterday, like you referenced, you and our little guy were having a tough time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what can you take from learning about those situations yesterday to apply to today while he still has a hard time because he is 2 and has all of these things he's going through? How can you be better so that it helps make him be better and adjust better?
Yeah.
And that's really all you can do is just keep trying and trying and trying and failing and trying again. Because it's like that billboard there. We live down the street from a church, and they always have these like motivational quotes on this little billboard sign thing that they have out front. And they had a really great one the other day about failure. Yeah. And it said, falling down is not failing. Not getting back up is failing. So you just have to keep going.
I guess.
Mm-hmm. You can do it.
Well, I know
I've
I
got
can
your
do
back.
It. Well, I think that one of the things that I told her was that I do have that drive to, like, I am so born to win that little things like this won't get me down. But before I had some of this knowledge, gosh, was it hard to, like, find any kind of, like, motivation to want to do something.
Yeah.
And now it's more like, well, shit, of course I'm going to fail. Like, that's the whole point, because if I became an expert at my emotions, then clearly I'm, like, living in a closet, like, never talking to anyone, never doing anything, never. It'd be asinine to think that every interaction I have is going to be solid. Yeah,
there's no way.
Because every other person in the world is having the most different day than I am. Mm-hmm. And, but I now have the choice to be responsible for myself 100% of the time. Mm-hmm. And that's the point, though, that I was telling her, that though I might feel a certain way today, it is also my responsibility to everyone around me to figure out how to cope with my feelings.
Yeah, to
properly.
Positively navigate.
Because eventually there's going to be more people around me with more emotions. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I need to always work on myself. Mm-hmm. Because if I want to be successful in a world where the light gets shined on you, well, I better be ready.
You better.
And the other part I told her, I said, one of the hardest things that I had to do was do this course. Like, this course was hard.
Yeah.
Because it really forced me to look at myself.
Well, and nobody wants to do that and look at the nasty parts of themselves.
Of course, she asked me about, like, my past and, like, little details. But never was the focus on those details. It was like, well, okay, that makes sense why you do this motion when this occurs. But let's dive into why you do it.
Yeah.
You know? And that was really cool. And I was telling her, I said, how did I put it? There's marriage. That was hard. Having kids was hard. Writing a book was hard. And this is on par with all of those things combined, because they're all the most difficult things I've ever had to do in my life. But like I always say, my one guy I really like fall on. Well, in faith too. That's hard.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
Mm-mm.
And the one guy I fall into all the time, Jordan Peterson, he always said the key to life is taking on the max amount of responsibility that one human can take on. Because then when you go through those dark moments, you feel the most success.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, though this is not fun at times, I also know that
it's also the most rewarding.
It's I can already feel it being rewarding. That's the crazy part, though, is that though they all hit differently, at times they all hit together.
That's true.
And that's the wild one. And those are the top of the pinnacle. I'm the highest I can be on the swing. I'm the highest I can be on my circle. Force of average is gone.
Yep.
But I know then the next day has the complete potential.
You might swing down. Yeah. You could be from the top right into the bottom.
The most wild ride ever. But that's the point, though. And he used to always say, I'll finish with this because and it finally made sense. And Carl Jung and all of them had the same principle. You had to go to the darkest place. How is it? You had to go to the darkest place to figure out, like, to see the sunshine, basically. Like, you have to personally go to the darkest place to find the meaning to your life.
Yeah.
Well, he used to say, like, the stories for the kids, right, were about the knight going into the darkest cavern or whatever to fight the dragon. Well, I was telling her, I said, makes sense, though. It's not the knight. I'm not going to fight some arbitrary dragon. I'm fighting my inners.
Yeah. You're fighting your own dragon that lives inside of you that you have to constantly slay. But it somehow keeps coming back. It's like the Hydra is what it is. You cut one head off and 10 more rear up right when you think
it's the
the
desert.
Monster is dead.
It's all of the stories that we heard as children. But what's crazy is when you really think about it, every morning when you wake up, you have to fight the dreams that you had. And then you have to fight the morning because of whatever, right? And then you have to fight whatever afternoon demons. It's a constant fight, right? And no matter who says, it's all malarkey.
It's not.
They are hiding something somewhere,
right.
Because at the end of the day, before the darkness hits again and you go into dream mode, your subconscious is the darkness, right? Like your deep down thoughts and your deep down what you hold, and the deeper you hold it, that the deeper you're going to have to go to fight it, right? But if you start to allow those things to come to the surface and just fight them, like, well, maybe you actually have a chance to win.
Exactly.
And I think that was my point with marriage. I was always terrified of it. Family, I was always terrified of it. Doing what I really love, terrified of it. Looking at my faith, terrified of it. And
you have an ultimate fear of failure. I think that is one of the deepest seated fears that you have, and it goes with every single one of those things you said. You're afraid of failing at being a husband, afraid of failing at being a father, afraid of failing at being 100%. An author, afraid of failing at being faithful to God. There are so many fears of failure, and that ultimately it can benefit or harm you. It's just how you handle it.
Well, that's why I said I think this was a very healthy thing to go through for 10 weeks because I didn't know how to handle it at times beforehand. At least now I have
a couple more tools to help you.
Something to say, well, let's try this today.
It's kind of like you were the knight riding in to battle your dragon, but you had no armor.
Yeah.
You had no weapons, no shield. I mean, the dragon was definitely going to win every time because you weren't prepared to fight properly.
But he did. That was good. That was the craziest part, that every time I would battle my dragons, they would always come back. So we can go on for hours about that. But yeah. So it was cool. When I put it all in that perspective and really thought about it, I was like, oh, yeah, I'm on my own quest.
You are on a quest.
All right.
Well, I'm so glad that it has benefited you. If
anybody's interested.
I have definitely seen you go through many different changes over the past couple months as you worked your way through the 10-week program off and on because of everything we had going on. But I'm really proud of you for doing it, and I think it's been a wonderful course and tool for you to have. And it's helped me learn a whole lot about how to handle things myself, just talking to you about everything that you're learning and what you're going through. And like you referenced earlier, when I said to you last night when you were having a hard time with our little guy, and I referenced that, you know, you were being your adolescent self versus your responsible adult. You know, I never would have known to think that or to make you aware of that if you hadn't gone through the course and taught me the things that you have learned. So I think it's really helpful for our relationship as husband and wife, as best friends, as parents, to be able to talk about those things, and for me to be able to understand and recognize when you're going through something and be able to try and help you figure out what your emotions are and how to get through them.
I appreciate it.
I got you.
Thanks for being there.
Anytime.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah. Woo.
Yeah, no, it's been awesome. So, on that note, it was
hot.
It was hot.
I'm sweating.
The birds sick of listening to us.
They're the little eggs. They're still nesting with their little eggies.
I found a little egg on the front patio the other day.
Oh.
But I don't know if it was the same one. Could have fallen from a different tree.
Oh no, it was broken.
Actually, it wasn't. It was like a little lizard took it over there. I don't know. Or a raccoon.
Was it a lot? Like there was still something in the egg?
I didn't touch it.
Or?
You're not supposed to touch it.
Yeah.
I looked at
gloves on, put it in here.
No, I don't know.
Incubate with the other eggs.
But I don't know. It would be like that.
Make the birds adopt it.
That would be the Simpsons episode where Bart puts these eggs that he finds in a bird's nest, and it ends up being a lizard, and the lizard eats
the babies. Oh no!
Yeah.
Okay.
Takes over the city.
Don't do that.
Yeah, let's not do that.
Yikes!
All right. Much love. Thank you all so much.
Have a wonderful week. We'll see you
Bottoms
soon.
up.
Woo!
Thanks, Gwen, for these waters.
Yeah. Yes.